Okay, I have about 8, and I think somewhere around 14 in here, so I should have more files, right? Yes?
I tried to download mine, but it was taking forever.
Okay, go ahead. Who was somebody going to say something?
Yeah, so sorry, I wrote you before. There's no place I can find where to submit my files at all. I've gone down on the Canvas under the class, under announcements, and I don't see anything where to submit it. I mean, I'm just trying and trying. I just looked at all the announcements. I looked at all the.
Here's the announcements. Hang on.
So I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Here's the announcements page. Here's the announcements page. Here's the announcements page, correct? And here's this right here. You click on it.
Yes.
And it just takes you to the folder. That's it.
That's the same. Oh, you use the same folder for everything?
Well, I just rename it. It doesn't matter. There's a link, so it doesn't even matter which folder it is because you don't have to find it. You just click it. Click
on the folder. Okay. Okay. I did, and I submitted my 3 assignments from last week too.
Okay, in the other folder, right?
Yes, and it shows.
Were those late or were they on time?
They were
probably on time before midnight, right?
Well, they were late. They were from last week.
I'll double check it.
Okay, but I'll try now to submit it on the right spot.
Okay, it's always going to be the same.
Okay.
Here's the Zoom meeting. Any other things we talked about, and there'll always be a little link that says folder, and boom, you just click it. But you have to be signed into Google.
Yeah, I am.
But it's always the same format.
Okay. I'll try. Thank you.
And yeah, and so I try to keep it consistent so it's not confusing. Because it can get confusing.
So you're saying you have, okay, I'll try. I'll try right now. Thank you.
Just always under announcements. I pretty much do everything under announcements.
Okay.
Obviously, except for grading, all that, that's in the grading section or attendance or any of that.
Okay.
Hang on. All right. I want to just kind of go through these today. I don't want to bring in a bunch of new tools because I want to talk about this poster project as soon as we get through these. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I wanted to get you guys started on it. I want to get you guys start understanding how we comp this together and how we thumbnail it, and then how we start the early process, part of the process. The early part of that process is really important. And I think people get too much in the headspace of finish. The finish is always going to be better if you put the work in on the front end. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially if you're lucky, like in here. So I was going through some poster stuff. I'll show you guys that in a minute. If you're lucky, you have a little bit of time, which we do in here. We have a little bit of time. I like to, when we do an actual project, and this will be the first actual project we're doing, I like to give you guys enough time to explore and sort of refine, especially on the first one, okay? Because it's going to be the first sort of image creation we're doing in here. Okay, so let me look at, all right, any questions about this camera thing right off the bat?
No, not particularly.
That's good. Again, I always expect you guys to have a lot of problems, and half the time you don't. So let's just quickly, and this isn't due till tomorrow, so you're fine. Ian.
Yes.
Okay, that's about right. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I probably knocked this glare down a little more on the other side. Did you? Well, I can look right here. Yeah, you haven't knocked that down yet, right?
The
side
section there. No, I just turned the. I tried to like turn the hue and saturation or the levels down on that, but
Yeah, I mean, you might be able to do that, but I would figure something out and just knock this down right here. The only thing it looks like you cleaned it up pretty nice. The only thing I'd say now to start to refine it a little further is to go in and knock down that glare on that side a little bit, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And the way I was doing, I mean, I want you guys to understand this too. There's a million ways to skin this cat, okay? There's a bunch of ways to do this. So I'm showing you a way. And then, hopefully what usually happens is here is people start doing things and I go, how'd you do that? And they go, oh, I use this. And, and they just start putting it together themselves. And that's fine. This shadow here. So was that a cast shadow for the lens?
To be honest, I believe it was. I think that's what I was going for.
Okay, it wouldn't be here, it'd be over here.
Got you. Okay.
Actually, what's weird is and I hadn't even thought of this before. This shadow value would actually go the other way. It would go this way because your light's coming this way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For the purposes of this, I don't care. Don't change it. All I care about right now is that you're getting your hands wet with the tools. That's all I care about.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, and then we have you played around with this. Oh, you switched it. Do you just use your hue saturation for that?
Yeah.
I like the way you can just run through the whole color spectrum and try things and go, oh, purple looks cool, and then you can adjust it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely the hardest part was just like cutting it out. But it just, took a little.
And you used your pen tool, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And I know, look, I'll show you some things probably tomorrow that are, easier ways to do selections. And again, you're going to go, why didn't we just do that? It's because it doesn't work all the time. You have to have a variety, including manual selection techniques to do this, okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Because you never know what you're dealing with. And again, it's not always going to be a photograph. Sometimes it's going to be a illustration that you're doing, an illustration that somebody gives you, so on and so forth, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Hey, John, Luce.
Yes, sir.
Congrats on that art thing.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that.
And Elin, didn't you do something too?
Yeah, I got one as well.
All right, congrats, you guys. Who else? Is there anybody else in here did?
Thank you, Mike.
That was cool. And most of them, it felt a little more even this year to me. I don't know. I haven't looked at the whole thing yet, but
there was a lot of really good entrants.
Huh?
There was a lot of really good entries this year.
Yeah.
We always have good, and we have good students. You know what I mean?
I always love the student show and see how good everyone is.
Yeah, and it's nice to, I don't know. I think it's nice to, when I used to see those student shows there and all that stuff, you'd go, damn, that person's kicking my ass, and it pissed me off, Where's Johnny at?
Hi.
Okay, so we still got to put a reflection in here, right?
Yeah.
It looks like you knocked down this value, the glare over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, looks like you cleaned it up pretty good. How'd you do this up here?
With the hue?
Oh, that's interesting. This whole section right here?
Yeah.
See, that's a different way than I would have done it. That's cool. Okay, questions?
No.
Okay, so get my reflection in there. You remember how to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like you're doing a lot of cool stuff. Like you're doing a lot of adjustment layers over here. That's great. Hey, guys, get in the habit of non-destructive editing. Get in the habit of adjustment layers and all that kind of stuff, okay? Right off the bat, it's going to help you. Don't get in the habit of doing what I did, where I was just working like an traditional illustrator in Photoshop when I first started, and that really, it's not the best way to work. Hang on a sec. I'm doing my screenshot.
Just to double check, when you're talking about the non-destructive, are you just talking about putting the layer over it? So
well, okay, non-destructive editing can really mean anything that's not destroying your original image.
Okay.
So if I have it on a layer, you know, and like, remember we were doing the content, or not content aware. What's the command? Hang on. Let's do this. Right here, where it says sample current below or all layers.
Yeah.
You know, and I can do my my stamp tool business on another layer. So I'm not touching the original layer. And, you know, and same thing with my adjustment layers. I'm not touching the original layer. So, and this is going to happen a lot. You think something looks really good, and then you come back to it in the morning and you go, holy smokes, that's oversaturated.
Yeah.
If I have it on an adjustment layer, I can just go back in and knock down that saturation a little bit and adjust a little bit. The main thing, and I know I've said this over and over again, you'll start seeing it when we do this poster thing, really take advantage of the time you have with something. Never do something and go, hey, I got 3 days left. If you got 3 days left on a project, something's probably wrong.
Yeah.
Okay?
For sure.
Go back to it, you know, and look at it and just go, oh, I can tweak that a little bit. And really use it to fine tune your design skills and your seeing skills and your sophistication skills. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Use that time wisely, okay? And always try, and I'm going to talk about thumbnailing here after this, so we'll probably be not too long today, because I just want to talk about thumbnailing, gathering reference, how we approach that, and then just down and dirty comping, okay? All right, any questions?
No.
Okay, great. Although I should have more in here. John, you did a watch, right?
I did both, but yes, my watch was the non-camera version. That'd be the camera. That'd be the watch.
Okay. Be careful with this reflection. I probably, let's see, hang on. I do a couple of things here. Where is that reflection? There it is.
At the bottom. That's the shadow. It's a little further, I think.
Here it is.
There it is.
I'd probably take this and pull it down a little bit.
Okay.
I probably cheat the shadow. Like I don't think I would do. Okay, if you're telling me it's sitting on a surface, laying down on a surface, that's one thing. Okay.
Yes.
So you've got a drop shadow here.
But the reflection is on the ground below it.
Yeah.
I was just trying a different method than the other one. I didn't even think of that. You're totally right.
Yeah. So that's a big deal, whatever. But and then so what I would probably do here, I do a little more stylized shadow, and I would go. Let's go here. Get me a, you know, this brush. Look up here, you guys, right there. You can see the brush is softer. If I go here to the hardness thing, it'll go harder edge. So I can just look at that visually really quick and see I've got a soft brush. I'm just going to start with I'm just going to use this gray that I have here. Okay, here's another thing, you guys. Under View, you have this rulers option, which is just Command R. And it's a nice thing to have because I can just go up here, grab it, and I can pull a guide, okay? And the reason I'm doing that is I want to keep this, what I'm about to do, straight. So I'm going to go boom, and then I'm going to hold click, or hold shift, and it'll give me a straight line. I'm going to go up here to view, and I'm going to go clear guides because I don't want that guide anymore. And then I'm going to go to, again, go to multiply. It gives me a nice, goes dark again. Then I think I'm going to try, hang on. I'm going to try to blur this a little more. And I probably have to shape this a little more.
Yeah.
So, you know, and there's a couple ways I could do this, but now that I've already made it, I probably just go to my eraser tool. Again, make sure it's a really soft eraser. Make sure that the opacity is way down.
Okay.
And I might just go I mean, there's a lot easier ways to do this, but I already said it. When I set something up, then I just usually try to, and then I could come in here and I'm just, again, I just want to shape it a little bit. And I just shape it in some nice, simple kind of graphic way. Does that make sense?
Totally. I think I just was using the light source and didn't really think about my reflection. I just threw it in as
The other
we were
thing you
doing
might
and
do here,
totally messed up.
another thing you might do here, and I don't know, because this is a light emitting thing, right?
Yeah, I did lighten it up a little bit, but I didn't want to get too crazy.
No, I
so-
wouldn't get crazy, but I'm wondering, and I don't know if this will work. Let's try it. Hang on. Again, I'm not used to my new palette thing. I'm gonna go to the sponge tool, which I don't know if you guys remember, that just selectively saturates or desaturates something. So I'm gonna make sure up here, again, all these things are up in my control bar. And it's under saturate, which is what I want. Hang on. It's under saturate, which is what I want, okay? I want to make sure this is getting recorded. Anyway, and I'm going to go to the layer of the watch, which is right here. And I'm going to go pretty heavy on it. I'm going to pull it up. And see, I can get a little more color in there.
Okay, yeah.
Because I just think it's a little, it could be a little more, like this is a vintage watch, right?
I think so. I just pulled anything that looked.
Because I mean, they don't make these kind of, like, that watch is super cheesy looking, right?
Yeah.
Like it looks like it was done, like, I don't know what this is. Is that a speaker?
I have no idea. I thought it was a
Something?
button, but I don't know.
That looks like, and then we don't use those kind of digital readouts anymore, those LED, whatever they're called, readouts.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun. It's more fun to play with it, actually, because, you can get a little cheesier with it. So see how that kind of brightens that up?
Totally.
And the reason I want to do that is it was sitting sort of in the same color as the case, but that's a glowing light emitting thing. So I'm probably going to want to hyper saturate it a little bit.
Okay.
Just to get the idea of it's lit. That's too much. But it's lit and it's a little brighter than the paint surface or the the mold surface, right?
Yes. Okay.
So I'm assuming this watch is, I don't know, 80s or something.
I have no idea. I just pulled it and it was the best blown out. Like it was on a blue rug. The whole thing looked ugly.
Yeah, I saw the original image. What's interesting too is the design of this. This was from the design era of, oh, we're going to try and make this look all techy. Do you know what I mean?
The highest tech, low tech around.
Yeah, it just looks super cheeseball when you look at it now in hindsight. Okay. And then this one, you know what you're doing on that one, right? Yeah,
The only thing
I like this. You added that little thing. Go ahead.
The only thing I didn't like was the reflection. I went further than what you said. I tried to put the lens forward using warp. I know you didn't show us that, but it came out kind of crappy. So in the future, I'll try and correct that.
Okay, so like I said, one thing that I do, I would just take the lens off on its own, and then I'd flip it the same way and kind of reposition it in front, okay?
I did do that so the image was...
I'm not going to show that much of the reflection, and I'm going to pull down the opacity quite a bit. So they're not really going to get a good enough look at it to really know.
Okay.
And if I'm just doing a quick down and dirty presentation like this to send somebody like a product idea or whatever it is I'm doing, because you could do this with the rendering with anything.
Yeah.
So if I was rendering a toy or something and throwing it at somebody so they could look at it, I'm just going to get it. Nobody's going to sit there really, unless it's like other dorky designers and go, oh, his reflection's off. It doesn't matter. It's just a graphic tool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It matters if you're doing something where it matters. If this is my finished presentation and it's got to look great and all that stuff, then I'm going to go in there. But if it's down and dirty stuff like this, I'm just going to make it look somewhat believable. Okay?
Totally get it. I just tried to push a little.
No, that's good. The other thing I would do is I would come down here to the reflection.
Uh-huh.
An easy way to solve, I think, this is go to transform, perspective, And I should be able to pinch these in.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think of that.
The problem here is that one's way further out. So instead of that, I'm going to go edit, transform, distort, and I'm just going to pull this side in a little bit and readjust it. And I might even come in here and just take a soft eraser and erase that edge so it's not flaring out like that.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you very much.
Where's Nathan?
Right here.
Oh, interesting. Okay, what do you think? Any questions?
I hate the pen tool.
Trust me, after a while, you won't mind it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I just need more practice with it.
You will get used to it. I hated it too. The first time I used that, I actually abandoned it. When I think I told you guys this. When this stuff all first started happening, I took Photoshop and all that stuff in Illustrator, and the pen tool to me was the dumbest thing in the world. And
you have to use it for everything, the lens, the cropping.
You have to use it, again, it's not just Photoshop. It's Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Premiere, and a bunch of other programs. You just have to get good at it. And the thing you have to understand is that you get good at it. You'll get good at it just in the course of this class pretty much, okay? Or you'll get a lot better at it. And it's just a repetition thing, okay? You just have to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, this looks pretty good. Like here, we're losing this edge here. Oops. Right there. So what I might do, I'm just going to flatten this just for the purposes of this discussion. I wouldn't normally do this. I'm just doing it so I don't have to find all the layers. So see how we've lost that little edge right there, or that where it breaks the edge, or it breaks the form? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going to take this is a case where I think I can probably use my burn tool. I'm going to go down to a really small brush, make sure it's not too hard edged. I'm going to put it on mid-tones. I'm going to leave the exposure there. Okay, again, I'm doing this. I'm clicking, holding shift. That's probably enough. It's probably a little too much. Let's go back one. That's a little better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you've kind of erased the corner, I guess.
All I did was I did use the burn tool, which just makes it darker, makes it a little darker. This one here with the little hand right here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, if I come in here and I kept going, I could, burn all this, which I don't want to do. It works really good in small doses like that. Okay. Any other questions?
Nope. Yeah, the videos really helped me.
Okay, good. Yeah, and your pen tooling is pretty clean. Get rid of this here. Don't do it now because I don't really care right now, but normally you'd want to get rid of. Okay, so look, I'm using the magic wand tool, which I never use, but I just want to show you. See how it over grabs stuff? Let's take this down. Let's go to our magic wand tool and let's take this tolerance down to 10. And see how it grabs less? So the lower that number, the less pixels it's going to grab. So that's a little better. Although I would never use this tool, but you take it out. See, that's what it does. See how crappy that edge is? It's really good. But there is times where you can use it. I just don't use it very often. Okay, good. You have to go through this exercise for you guys to start getting a hang of the tools a little bit. Okay, where's Noah?
I'm here.
What do you think?
What is it? I tried rewatching the video like again, and I didn't fully like understand. No, I got all the tools and stuff. I just didn't know everything that I had to do. So I did like what was like what thought I needed to do.
Okay, so
I
like
guess.
here on this reflection, I would do your layer mask, click there, grab your gradient tool, make sure it's black to white, oops, which is under basics right here.
Yeah.
And then just make sure you kind of make that more of a reflection, right?
Got it.
And then here, see how we're getting this big temperature jump? This is warm, this is cool. Yeah?
Yes.
So I would probably go back to the original camera layer. I'm going to go to my hue saturation. And I just desaturated it. You see that?
Yeah.
See how they're more in the same temperature range now?
I can see that now.
So, you know, and I didn't save the lens. So you can see it went black to white. So I wouldn't do it like that because this camera, it's a black and white object, basically, right? So in order to still keep it that it feels like I didn't desaturate it, I got to come in here. And again, you can hold your space bar to move that selection around. I'm not going to try and get it totally perfect, but I'll get it close enough. And I'm going to go here, Command C, Command V, put that up on top so it's got a lot of color. And now I could go back here and now desaturate this. That's a little better. And see, there's some color in that lens, so it kind of tricks the viewer into thinking it's still a totally color image. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And then I could select this, and I could saturate it a little more. I could change it. I'm going to saturate it a little more. I think that's fine. Just to get a little color in there. Now, later on, if I wanted to, I could take some of the, but we'll get into this stuff later. I could take some of this seamless color from the background, and I could just barely maybe touch the top planes or something with it so it feels like it's getting reflected into the camera a little bit. We don't need to go that far right now. But does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's something that you have to understand about when we, and especially with this poster thing we're going to start. You have to make sure that your images, because we're going to use found images and things like that, that they don't feel cut out and they just paste it into a scene, okay? So then you got to start thinking about where the light would bounce around and how it could bounce back into here. And anybody who's not a painter or whatever, illustrator or whatever in here, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you how to do that. And it's actually really valuable also for you guys who are digital painters and stuff like that, because if you're not doing that, your work is going to look, it's just not going to look lit right at all, okay? So I'm always trying to take advantage of anything in the room that I can bounce into something, and it makes everything feel like it's the same environment. Now that doesn't matter if you're doing a montage of images, you still have to do that. Otherwise things just feel cut out like a collage. Okay, good.
My question.
Yeah. Who is it? Question?
Oh, sorry, you froze on me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So for the camera lens, you know how to make that into an extra layer.
Yeah.
For that specific edit, did you want us to put on like a non-destructive layer, or can you just you know, edit it right on that layer as well?
It really depends. Like for the purposes of what we're doing right now, there's once in a while where you're going to work on the original layer. When it comes to the lens, the main thing I'm going to do with it is saturate, desaturate it. Yeah, I'd probably still use an adjustment layer or whatever. So I could change it if I want. Because you never know, you might change the seamless color in the background and go, okay, now the lens feels like it should be a, you know, more amber color or whatever. So I think whenever you can non-destructive edit, you want to, because you want to have that constant. The thing that's great about digital is that you can just constantly edit and constantly refine and constantly change, and it gives you a lot of confidence, because you're not. When I used to do like finished renderings or something like over at Imagineering, those were like an acrylic or whatever. they gave me a lot of anxiety because I was sitting there. You had to do a very finished drawing, perspective drawing, whatever it was, and then really start laying everything in a real methodical way, because you're going at 2 o'clock in the morning. If this isn't going right, this is due at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't have any. I mean, I have tricks I can do, but it's totally different now. And now, obviously you do all that stuff digitally. And you have a lot more confidence that you can just, make decisions and go back and change them later if they're not, if they don't work out right. So that's obviously the advantage of this. It's just the endless editing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
And you're always working with somebody, by the way. I don't care if you're the president. I don't care who you are in the company. Because like when I was creative director or whatever, they go, oh, well, you're the defining voice on this. I'm like, I'm the defining voice on the creative maybe. But then when it goes to, I don't know, the president company or the client or Mattel or whoever, they're going to have their comments on it, and then I've got to address those. And I can't just say, no, this is the right thing, because I'm basically doing a job for Mattel. It's up to them in the end what they want to do with it. Okay. And that having that ability to just edit is really helpful. Okay. And you will find out if you don't do that, if you don't save these layers and everything, that is every single time that's going to be what they ask you to change, the thing that you didn't non-destructive edit. Okay? Yeah? Where'd Mina go? Oh, hang on. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
Okay. Where's Brandon? There he is right there.
I'm here.
What do you think?
The only problem I had was, the shadow part, because I wasn't sure.
Oh, back here?
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to fill it, like with the color, so I just paint bucketed it like 20 times.
Okay, so let's go back here. I'm going to select this, and how can I do it? I have it on a layer. I can hold Command and click the little thumbnail, and it reselects it. And let's say I'm just going to give it a weird color just so we can see it really well.
Mm-hmm.
Edit, fill, foreground color, because that's where I'm going to pull it from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's it.
Oh, okay.
Right. So the thing I like about that, just remember that you just always go for your foreground color, and it'll sort of sit there. So if I do, let's go back. If I go Option Delete, that will also fill it. Or if I go Command Delete, that will fill it with the background color. So you can start getting used to those hotkeys. Okay.
Yeah, because in the video I was looking through, you did a command, and I wasn't sure what the command was. So
yeah, that's on me, because I should be calling that stuff out when I do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, you guys probably notice that a lot of times I go up and I go to fill, and I'm doing things in a real manual way. I don't normally do that. I'm doing that because I want you to know where those things live, and then you can use the hotkeys. But you kind of want to know where they live so you understand where things are grouped together. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Any other questions?
Not really.
Okay, one thing I would do here is the opposite of what I did on the other one. I might come in here and give it now a little bit of light, and we're getting a little bit of overspray here with, it looks like that's from the burn tool to me. So make sure we don't get that overspray. You see that right there?
Yeah.
It's kind of like when an airbrush oversprays something.
Yeah.
Okay, and also don't do it now, but this in here should go.
Oh, I didn't notice that part.
Everybody misses that, it's fine. Okay, and you got that selected out. And then I might come in here with this one and just go my dodge tool again, which goes lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And I might come in here. Oops, went the wrong way. I'm going to flatten this. I would never do this normally. I'm just doing it for time. I might come in here and give that like a little highlight, maybe there, maybe there a little bit. Maybe on this lip right here, I might give it a little light like that. Just to give it a little more, and maybe there, and that's a sloppy job, but you see how we need just a little bit of a specular highlight? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, good. Okay, that's, where's Sheena?
Right here.
Okay, what do you think?
It definitely needs work. Like I still need to do the lens. It needs color in there.
Make sure that you hold that lens on its own layer. That way it doesn't go to, totally gray on its own. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then I do have a question on my Photoshop. I've been trying to save as, but it doesn't save as. So I've been exporting because that's like the only way I could turn in the work.
Okay, save as is different than saving. You know that, right?
Save as is when you put like the name, right?
No, save as. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, I have it saved, right? So if it's saved, it's just saved. Okay. When I do a save as, what's going to happen is save as. It's going to give me this dialog box, and I'm going to say save on my computer. Going to give me this dialog box, and what that's doing is it's basically making a copy. Okay, so what happens is if I'm working, I mean, there's a bunch of reasons for this. There's a couple of reasons. Okay, so when I do a save as, it gives me this dialog box, which I can now go, well, I want to save this one as a PNG. And it's going to keep the JPEG one, the original one, and it's going to make now another one that's a PNG format. So if I want to go, this usually works where I have a, let's double click this. So I just made that a regular layer. Okay, so this was a JPEG. I just made it a regular layer. It's not flattened anymore. So now when I go to save it, just a regular save, see how it's giving me this save the dialog box again? It's because it can't save it as a JPEG anymore because a JPEG can't have layers. So now I would go save on my computer, and I might go, save it as Photoshop if I want to save the layers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like my problem is like that window does not come up.
You only have one screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this window will not come up unless you do a save as. So if I just save it now, let's go back and flatten this again. So right here in my flyout menu, I can flatten the image. It'll go back to being a JPEG. I'm going to go save, and nothing's going to happen. All it's going to do is save that file. That's it. Okay? Usually in this class, like if I ask you guys for a JPEG, in this class, if it's a PSD file, then you're going to have to go, because you don't want to lose your PSD file. You don't want to flatten it. So you're going to go, you're going to go save as, because you're going to save it as a JPEG, and that won't touch your PSD file. Does that make sense? So the only time you go into save as is basically if you want to save it as another thing.
I see.
Okay? Once you save it, it's only going to give you the dialog box once. And then when you save it, it's just going to save it. It's not going to give you any more dialog boxes. The only time it's going to give you a dialog box again with the option to save it another way is if you do save as. Okay?
Yeah. I just think that my dialog box does not come up when I do save as.
In the beginning and not again.
Yeah, it happened. It worked the first time, and then when I did the girl project with the clouds, it didn't work that time, and I had to like restart my computer and then turn it on again. And I tried finding a way to reinstall Photoshop. So I don't know. It might be.
That sounds to me like it's just a saving thing. I don't think it's Photoshop screwing up. I just think it's getting used to the program.
Okay.
And you might have saved it. Like again, if I saved it. Because if you didn't save it and those things didn't come up, it wouldn't save. Like it's not going to save it if it doesn't go through the dialog process the first time. Okay. Then after that, again, just like this right now, if I go, I go make something on this and then I go save it again, it's just going to save it. It's not going to ask me anything. The only time it's going to ask me now is if I go, oh, I'm going to save this for the class or whatever, we'll save it as a different format. Then I would have to go save as, and then it gives me this dialog box again. It's sort of like going back all through it again. Then I'm gonna go save on my computer, and then I can pick my format here and then save it. And it's not gonna touch my original at all, okay?
Okay.
You'll get used to it.
Righty.
And if you keep having problems with it, we'll figure out what it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, can you see? Okay, so we need a reflection. Do you remember how to do that?
Yeah. So that was the other thing that I got a little stuck on. Just the reflection and then the shadow in the back.
Okay, so the reflection, I'm just gonna cheat here for time. I'm using this cheesy magic wand tool. Look, it's only at 5. I'm gonna put it at 20. So that picks up more. And you did this with a pen tool?
Yeah.
Okay, be careful where you cut off this little loop thing in here, right?
Yeah.
Make sure, because those are curves. You want to be getting good at that curve with that thing. Takes you a little while, okay? Now look, I have the whole background selected. I don't want the background because if I go Command C, Command V, I've actually got this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do we want to do? We want to go, we're talking about a selection. So we want to go up under select, and then we want to go inverse. So now it's just the camera, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go C, V. So it pasted it right on top of itself. This should be behind this, but I'm not going to worry about that right now because this is a flattened image. I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Flip Vertical. There it is. I'm going to bring it down here. I always kiss this edge right here. This is the reason it needs to go behind it is because this lens is in front of it. Now I'm going to go back to Edit, Transform, Skew in this case. I'm just going to pull that up. And I'm just going to real half-ass erase this out. That's really sloppy, but that's okay for now. Okay, now, all I have to do, I'm on my layer, go right here to Quick Mask. If you hover over it, it should tell you what it is, but it's not doing it right now. Click that, and now I've made a layer mask. Go to my black and white gradient, and then just pull up. Click, hold, and pull up, and there it is. Okay?
Yeah. All right.
And that'll give you that. And then the other thing, now I got to select this again. Well, you don't even have to use the, I kind of like it if you use the shape just to get the hang of this. So I'm going to do this again where I just select this background in a real bad way. Oops. Again, select inverse CV. So I just cut and pasted it. And I'm going to go Command and click the little thumbnail because that camera's back there. You can see, hang on. That camera's back there and you can see it. I'm going to make that a selection. I'm going to pick a gray. Let's pick this one. Edit. And I'm just going to fill that shape. That's all I'm doing. Where'd I go?
I'm sorry, you're getting a little cut off.
Okay, hang on. Am I back now?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to go edit, and I'm going to fill that shape with a gray. There it is. Now, this, again, should be behind this camera, but I can't do that because I don't have layers, okay? So all I would do is, again, go back up here. This would be behind my camera. I would go up here again to edit, transform. I'm just going to go to distort. Give it a cast shadow over here somehow. And then I'm going to go layer, multiply to make it darker again. And then I would, I would shape this where it's supposed to be. Oops. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
So we're just using the selection of the camera to fill it with a gray on its own layer. And then we just use the distort tools to sort of bend it into being a shadow. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. If you have more trouble with it, tell me. Okay? Any other questions?
I
We're
think
good?
that's it.
Yeah? Am I down or is Sheena down?
I think you cut out for a sec.
Okay, Sheena,
Yes.
that all makes sense?
Yeah.
What's your major?
I'm trying to do graphic design and photography.
Not trying, right?
Yeah.
You're doing.
I'm doing graphic
Good.
design and photography.
Not
Do or do
trying.
not.
Go through the
There is no
process.
try.
There's what?
I said do or do not. There is no try.
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay, who's this? Elan.
Yep, that's me.
This looks good.
Oh, thank you.
It all makes sense?
Yeah. I just rewatched the video and then just kind of do it kind of step by step at first, and then getting a hang of the pen tool for sure, and also learn how to group layers actually. So that was like the new thing I learned.
Actually, yeah, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow. It's pretty simple. That's a good point actually, because I always forget that, and part of the reason I forget is
I
because
think you cut out a little bit, Mike.
Huh?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit.
Oh, I don't tend to do it that much. I don't care for it, but that doesn't matter. It's actually a really good tool. I get it. So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow. Because today I just really want to get you guys started on your poster thing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the only thing I'd say is maybe I'd find a couple places where I could do a little specularity, right?
Right, yeah.
So, and you have to do that at the very end, and you really have to make sure you don't overdo it, okay?
Yeah.
Because what people will do is they'll start learning the lens flare tool and stuff like that, and then they just start going insane with it, you know?
Right.
And so, but I might just put again, I think it's kind of the same thing I said earlier. I might put a little, again, I want to flatten this. I would never do this. I'm just doing it for the sake of this. I might put a little specularity there, a little here maybe. And don't do it as sloppy as I'm doing it. You know, make sure
And
it
that's
fakes out.
the
And maybe
that's
I
the
don't know,
dodge tool, right?
Yeah, right now I'm using dodge tool. You got to be careful with that.
Okay.
Though. Use the dodge tool if it's working. If it's making everything devoid of color, don't use it. This is sort of devoid of color, so I'm not as worried about it. I also don't want it so ham-fisted. I'm doing it very ham-fisted. Like right here, you can get a little more. Like right in the center, right there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you cut out a
Don't do
little
this
bit, but
crap.
I got the gist of it.
Don't do this crappiness that I did right here. Whenever I'm talking about these, I tend to do these kind of quick just to get my point across. Don't be all sloppy about it
Right.
like that, okay?
Yeah, of course.
You know, you can, there's a lot of things you can do, but we'll get more into, again, I want you guys to put your real time and effort into a project, okay?
Okay.
So these are exercises. I just want to make sure, I want to, I forgot who it was that goes, yeah, I hate the pen tool. I want you to start getting through that stuff and start getting through that learning curve of just basic tool stuff. Because that's really what you're going to be using. All right, is there any other questions on that? I should have a lot more in here, but I don't think this is due till tomorrow, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's okay. I can look at some more in the morning. I just want to make sure I have everybody's in there. Some of these that I'll grade them tomorrow. I won't worry about it. I'll keep all these. If you've already uploaded them and you feel like you've done enough and it's good, cool. If you hang on. If you want to, like you still have to put a reflection in a shadow, then just drop
You
it
cut out a little bit there, Mike.
Huh?
I said you dropped out.
If you need to finish them, like if you don't have your
a little
shadow
bit
on
there.
it or whatever,
You cut out.
I cut out again.
Yeah, you're cutting out quite
Yeah, you're cutting out quite a bit now.
Okay, what about now? Am I all right?
a little robot-y, but not fully cutting out.
All right, give it a second. Hang on. Because if it doesn't write itself, I'll quit out of here and jump back in. Is it better?
Yeah, so far.
Yep.
If you're not finished with it, just throw it back in there today or tomorrow. And just let it override your original one, okay? And just write over it. And then I'll go grab those by tomorrow, okay? Yes?
Okay.
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 And by the way, like John does that thumbs up thing. When I'm asking you guys a question, if you want to just do a thumbs up, that's cool. I get it. I just like to make sure that I'm A, that you're hearing me, and A, that it makes sense. Okay? Or B, that it makes sense. Okay, so let's look at this a little bit, you guys. We're going to look at some stuff. Let me pull this up. This is basically what I want to do. Okay, now there's a couple things here. You can use your own photography. You can use stuff you scrounge off the internet. I don't really care. Okay. But when you search things on the internet, make sure that you're going to the large size file under images. So you're not getting little tiny, you can't use those. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what I like to do too is when I'm doing it, and I'm probably just telling you redundant stuff that you already know, but that's fine. When I go to Google and I go portrait, then I'm going to go images. They're pretty much all going to be 72, so you got to make sure they're big enough. And you can do this project in 72 TBI. I'm fine with that. I just don't want it to be this big. So then I'm going to go tools, size, large. And of course, it's taking forever. Okay, so these should, in theory, be a much larger size. I like to check them just by going, I right-clicking them and going open image, a new tab. And that's a pretty big image. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Let me grab this real quick. So I can just drag this off usually, put it in my folder. So what I would do is I would get a folder together. Let's try, for some reason it always puts this bar over here. Let's try, get rid of this. And let's just go, I'm just looking for random elements. So maybe this too, I'm gonna go larger. Oh, it is on large. I'm going to use a regular spaceship like that. And again, I like to check it. That's not a very big image, so I probably wouldn't use it, but for the sake of this right now, I'm going to. And then maybe I'll grab some other stuff in a minute. Okay, so we're going here. Okay, like here, you guys, you should be able to see. Okay, here's the thing with this kind of thing. Because I know people do like movie posters and stuff like that when you're doing them in Photoshop. A lot of times you're getting a lot of assets from them, and they don't really probably care what they're giving you. Does that make sense? They're just going, look, here's a bunch of stills from the movie. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so like here, I think you can see there's one of two things that happen here. He could have done a blue overlay. We know how to do that, correct?
Yes.
And what's that going to do? It's going to unify the color. So now it becomes sort of a monochromatic idea. And if I'm pulling from a whole bunch of different sources where I can't control the color and everything, that actually might be a good way for me to go. And especially this, because it's obviously underwater, so I can justify it being sort of bluish. But it also helps you from a design perspective because I'm not trying to make all those colors work in the same environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so then if you look at this one, this is sort of your classic montage thing, okay? Again, you can tell they hit it with this sort of warm color, and they did a lot of work on it. Then faded it out down here, you know, pop this in, and basically they're fading a lot of things in and out of each other, okay? And also, it's pretty monochromatic. It's pretty warm monochromatic up here, and then it just starts to shift to a cool. You're going to see the warm, cool thing done over and over and over again because it works, okay? Now, let's go. Oops. Different approach. This looks like it's illustrated, but it's a montage kind of idea. And you could make things look a little more illustrated. If you notice, you know, these are all one color, monochromatic, one color kind of ideas, okay? So monochromatic, that's another approach. Again, I like to use this one as an example of not very good Photoshop, okay? And the reason now, this is also a classic sort of formulaic movie poster idea. You guys have seen this 1,000 times, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, big hero shot. Look, the lesser actors ghosted back here in the sky. I mean, it's a total formula, okay? But what I think doesn't work here, look how cut out this guy looks. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Why is that? Because they're not managing the edges and they're not really managing the color very well, okay? Mostly it's edges. This edge here should be a little softer. This edge here should be a little softer. This probably is okay. That's a very hard edge right there. But do you see how we have to manage the edges or it feels like a cutout collage?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
And we got to really think about that, okay? And I'll show you one little quick thing today before we go out. It's just totally simple. I think this is a real amateurish looking job. There was also, maybe I'll try and find it. There was also this movie, I think it was called, which just came out. What was the movie? Is that girl Margot Robbie, the one that plays Harley Quinn or whatever that name is?
Suicide Squad.
What was the name of that movie? Didn't she have a standalone movie?
Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey. It had one of the worst movie posters I've ever seen in my life. I thought it was fan art, okay? And I'll see if I can pull it up. Okay, so there's another, okay, here's another classic montage idea. Done a lot better, okay? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You already have most of the skills or most of the knowledge and tools to do this now. Does that make sense to you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is going a little more, I hate this image because it's so small, but it's going a little further where they made the, but again, they used this monochromatic blue. This image of Batman was probably just given to them, and it might have been in another scene. It might have been a publicity shot. Who knows? Okay. And then, you know, adds all this smoke down here. What did that smoke do? It makes that building, which probably was not in that scene, sort of fade in. It's a smart way to make the two fade together and also push the idea of chaos, fire, all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yes.
this fire thing is just a fire trick. Okay, we're not worried about that yet. And then this one also is a very classic montage idea. The only thing I like, well, not the only thing. This actually works pretty good for this movie. Okay, yeah, it's formulaic, but it kind of works. I like this big diagonal, the ship. So you probably have to go in and add this smoke back in. Okay. And again, you know, probably movie stills, and they're just taking everything apart and rebuilding something else. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, we are going to do this at 72 DPI, and because I'm not going to make you, it doesn't have to be a movie poster. It doesn't have to be, if it is a movie poster, it doesn't have to be a movie that actually exists. It could be a movie you make up, use your own photography. All that's fair game. What?
No. You cut out.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Did you guys get what I just said? What's fair game, or did I get cut off?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be, and then
Now you're cutting off. I don't know why my.
you froze for like
Oh
7
no, he
seconds.
froze again, did he? Oh.
And you know what's weird is every morning before class, I restart my modem so it doesn't do this, but just some days, I don't know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
It does not have to be an existing movie. It does not, you could use your own photography. You could make yourself the star of it. I don't care. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Use your boyfriend, girlfriend. I don't care. You could also, what we're really starting to do here is composite things together in a way, hopefully, that looks cohesive in design. Okay. Not a bunch of hacky stuff all crammed together. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Okay. So let's go back. I pulled some, hang on. So that's those. I will give you a link to those if you care. Let's look at these real quick. I don't think all these are great, but they have examples in it that I think are helpful. This is, you see this all the time. It's another thing you see, but it's kind of cool. Like a lot of times you'll see Batman and he's coming apart and it's all bats. You guys have seen that, right? Yes? You guys can hear me, right? How about now?
Now we can.
Yes.
Sort of.
Did I just
Yeah.
cut out again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to quit out and see if I can relaunch Zoom, and maybe it'll solve it. Okay?
Okay.
Just take me like 3 minutes.